Hello there. Happy Friday. It's Sam again, talking about some more writing related topics. Just a quick video this time. That's all I have time for, but hopefully it'll be enough to give some of you some helpful insights or get some discussion going. What I want to talk about today is plotting, by which I mean plotting out a story, usually a novel length story. I guess short stories, if you write those, could be plotted too, but a lot of us are working on novels, longer works, so those things can get big depending on how it is. At minimum, they're, I don't know, I guess 50,000 words or something is considered minimal. Some of us can write a lot more than that. So when they get so big and there's so much going on, so many different characters and plot points, how do you handle that? How do you plot it out? Do you plot it out, or do you just kind of go by the seat of your pants? That's the question I'm talking about today. Um, we kind of have in the writing community, we have two different camps. We call them plotters, that's obvious, people who plot out, or pantsers, as in fly by the seat of your pants. Those are terms I've heard. So kind of the opposite camps. Are you a plotter or a pantser? What's your approach? I'll tell you mine in a little bit. But if you're watching, if you're a writer, if you have any experience with this, post yours in the comments here. I want to hear if you're a plotter or a pantser, if you're a planner, basically, or more of a spontaneous person who just kind of lets the story take its own shape, and what works for you in those regards, and what approach works best for you and why. So post your comments, post your approach in the comments, post your questions in the comments if you have any. Um, yeah, we may not have a lot of time for discussion. Depends on if anyone has questions, but yeah, we'll see. So I wanted to give you just some tips from my experience, and I will preface this by saying, to my knowledge, there is not one formula that works for everyone. It's not one size fits all. Even my creative writing teacher in college said that when he kind of, I think he took one side over the plotting versus pantsing camp, and I kind of asked him about that, and he was like, "Well, do what works for you. I mean, whatever works for you, if that's what works, then go for it." So I will say the same thing. If you have your own approach, if it's opposite from what I'm about to say, then do what works for you. There's not one formula, but it's just, each writer is different, each story is different, the way we do things is different. But I will tell you a bit about what works for me, and hopefully you can glean something from it if that helps. So I definitely am a plotter, if anyone hadn't guessed that already. If you know me in various areas of life, my wife, my coworkers, some of my friends will attest. I tend to be a structured person, structured and organized, at least in my own way. It may not look like organization to other people, but it does in my mind. Um, so I'm definitely a plotter. I am someone who at least to some degree plans a story in advance. Um, I know some people talk about the camp, or I guess the idea of like, oh, I just kind of write the story and see where it goes, or see where the characters take me, and the characters take on a life of their own, and I never know what they'll do next. For the most part, that isn't me. If that's you, if your character is taking on a life of their own and that works, great. I kind of just have to struggle to make that work sometimes. I mean, there are times, like maybe in smaller ways, where like that'll happen to me. And when I say I'm a plotter, I don't mean I have like every scene point by point laid out. I don't mean I have every bit of dialogue laid out. So those things I kind of write as they come to me. But big points, major plot points, I kind of plot out in advance. So those smaller issues, smaller areas, I could see where you say, oh, the characters kind of take off on a life of their own, and I didn't know that was going to happen before I wrote it. But in general, I have the major plot planned out point by point. So if you're someone who's wanted to outline and never been able to before, wanted to plot and have had trouble with that, let me tell you a little bit about how I do it. I like to start my story when I write a new story, a new novel or beginning project. I start with the end in mind. And again, it's not like every detail point by point, but I have at least a vague, broad idea of where I want things to get to, of where I want things to end. Edgar Allan Poe, in his short stories, talks about like the single effect, like everything in the story should be working toward that single effect at the end. And for me, it's not quite the same. It's not maybe a single effect, but it is a point in mind. I'm like, I have a resolution in mind. Again, broadly, I know where I want it to go, and therefore everything I do along the way has to be in service to that point. has to help things get to that point. So if I'm stuck for a while, I'll have to ask myself, okay, well, what happens next to get to that point, um, or what needs to happen to move the story in the direction I want it to go. Um, yeah. So when I say start with the end in mind, I mean again, it's broad. It's not like a detailed plan. It's not a step by step fight scene or like every bit of dialogue or anything like that. Maybe snippets here and there. Um, it's really like a picture in my mind. Like I'm writing a superhero story. If you didn't know that, Fractured Heroes. You actually can read a free sample. I put together a sample, a few sample scenes that I thought were some of my best ones or my maybe most interesting ones. Um, and if you sign up for my link, it should be in the video there, the video description there, also on my fan page, Samuel and Harris. Sign up there. You can read a free sample of the story if you haven't already. Sorry, that was a sidetrack. Um, I, yeah. When I have, okay, so superhero story, when I have the ending planned, again, it's not every single bit. It's like a scene in my mind. I mean, I kind of visualize it like a movie almost. So I can visualize the final battle taking place. You know, usually a climactic showdown. I can visualize who they're up against, who the heroes are up against, what the problem is, vaguely what the scene is around them, um, and kind of how I want things to be resolved from there. I visualize like how they'll defeat the villain. I had to think of that if I can't think of it already, and then I kind of visualize. I guess don't visualize, but there's always an emotion attached to it. Like these things come to me before you can even put them into words. Like just this feeling of like the climactic battle against the villain, of this intensity, this kind of courageous showdown, um, and then afterward, when I'm thinking of the resolution, the cleanup, and kind of where that will lead our heroes, I feel the emotions of like um, whatever resolution they're feeling, whether it's victory or defeat or reconciliation with each other or something like that. Um, I kind of feel those emotions. So these scenes come to my mind before I even put them into words, and not just the ending, although that's a big one, but like individual scenes throughout the story. I'll just think of like, oh, that would be really cool, or this is something that I know I want to happen, or this is a scene that needs to happen. And I kind of visualize those again before I even put them into words. I kind of have this idea in my mind, and not a fleshed out idea, just like a scene. Like I can visualize a scene and feel the emotions with it. So for me, it starts with the visuals and the emotions of things that I know I want to happen throughout the story at different points, um, and I kind of take it from there and fill in the gaps on my own. Now you may be asking, okay, well, what if I don't have those ideas yet? What if I have nothing to go on yet? Just maybe a vague premise or a character or something like that. Um, what if you need help coming up with those ideas, like those scenes in your mind? What if you have no idea where you want your story to go? And that, honestly, I am not certain what to tell you, because these things I don't really sit around trying to think of these scenes. A lot of them come to me. I would say, first of all, if you're having trouble like thinking of the plot at all, thinking of ideas, I'd say be very familiar with your genre. Start like reading and consuming other things in your genre if you haven't already. Um, I have read and watched a lot of superhero stuff in my 30 years. You know, a number of comic books, a number of movies and shows in the past 10 plus years or however long those have been getting popular. Um, so I feel like I know the genre pretty well by now. You know, sometimes when I'm watching a show or something, I'll start to predict where they're going to go with it next. I mean, not always because there's still twists and turns. I have not predicted the ending of Falcon and Winter Soldier, and we haven't watched the finale yet. Maybe we can over lunch in a little bit here because it just came out today. So no spoilers, but don't spoil that one for me. But a lot of times I can kind of predict where things are going, especially with like a CW show. I mean, I enjoy those ones, you know, like the Flash and Arrow and Supergirl and stuff like that. But let's be honest, if you've seen them, they're a little on the melodramatic side. They're on the formulaic side. I consider them like fun, cheesy, like soap opera TV for superhero fans. Anyway, so like I'll watch a show like that, and I can kind of predict the general patterns that things are going on. So I'd say get really familiar with your genre if you don't have ideas yet. If you don't know how to end it, be familiar with your genre and kind of take it from there and realize what the usual things are that happen, and just kind of the kinds of plot points you can do. Not that you want to rip off one other work entirely, but you can draw influences from other things. The other thing I'd say is if you can't think of an ending, if you have no idea how you want your story to end, I'd ask you, I guess not so much in a plot sense, but like where do you want the characters to end up? Like, is there triumph? Is there tragedy? Is there falling in love? Most stories have the good guys win at the end, and if they don't for some reason, then it's usually a significant reason, like some thematic point you're trying to accomplish. But do you want the good guys to end? Do you want these two characters to fall in love? Do you want some kind of reconciliation to happen? Does the villain need to have a redemptive arc? I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing here from things I've drawn from. Does Aragorn become king at the end? I mean, spoilers, you know, it's like where does this character end up? Kind of. Um, so basically, again, if you're thinking of the end in mind, you're thinking of the end goal, places you want your character to get to, and it kind of depends on the tone of your story. You know, if you want to have a hopeful tone, of course, then good guys winning, people falling in love will be a good ending, often. Um, or if it's something different, then a different ending, obviously. But a lot of our stories, have good guys winning, trying to be hopeful, people joining together. That's kind of a common theme in literature, movies, and all that stuff. So again, ask yourself where you want things to end up. If you don't know, like, plot wise what's going to happen, just ask yourself where you want the characters to end up. Then figure out what kind of story, what kind of journey, what kind of plot takes them there. That's the best advice I have off the cuff for thinking of these ideas. If you haven't yet, if you can't, if they're not just coming to you out of inspiration and you need to like sit down and think of them, I'd say what works for me. Watch other things in your genre, get some ideas, and then think about where you want your characters and your story to end up. But like I said, I have usually an idea of where I want the story to end. Again, a broad idea. I have these scenes in my mind, like little snippets of the plot with emotions attached to them in my mind before I even put them into words. Um, so I kind of, once I have those, I string those together. I like to write out an outline. I didn't always used to, but now that I have complex plots with five or so main characters, I try to outline things, partially for myself. I mean, I do feel like I have things ruminating in my head for a while. Um, I could write maybe a decent job if I start off the cuff, but again, I'm a planner. I'm a structured person. I like to write an outline. So once I have those points in mind, at least some of those points, I write an outline. And I'm pretty conversational in my outline. If I'm not sure of something, I'll just say I'm not sure, or like I'm not sure yet how this connects. I'm not sure yet what's going to happen in between these scenes, but like at some point this needs to happen. I'll write those things out, and if I don't know yet, I'll just put I'm not sure. I'll think about that later. I'm basically writing it to myself, and I don't know. I've envisioned this is a little dark, but like if anything would happen to me before I finish my book, I want my work to live on. So I write a detailed outline so someone else could find it. Maybe probably won't happen, but it just I thought that's crossed my mind. Um, so I write a detailed outline, at least somewhat detailed of all the details I know, and kind of put those things in order. Sometimes I know things need to happen, but I don't know the order they all need to happen in. That was kind of in my last book that I just finished in January, finished drafting at least. When I wrote an outline, I was like, yeah, I have ideas. I have things that have to happen at some point, kind of in a plot order. Um, but I'm not sure exactly where each thing happens, exactly how they all fit together. There was a scene I was really looking forward to writing, and I kind of just assumed would be in the middle of the book. But just when I plotted things out, it ended up being like chapter six, so more like the first quarter, which is fine. I mean, I didn't mind, but it's um, just my way of saying yes. I have a rough idea of things that need to happen, but not a point by point everything from the beginning. So that's kind of how I do it. Start with these ideas. Start with the ideas that come to you. Start with an ending in mind, and I write out an outline for myself that is as detailed as it needs to be to keep me going and keep me on track. And then kind of as I get closer, like if I've so that's like what I do at the beginning or before I start the book. Then as I get closer, I'll have more, and have written more of it. I'll have more ideas. Like if I'm in, if, like let's say at the beginning. I'm not really sure about chapter 10 or where that's going to fall, but you know, if I've if I'm in the middle of the drafting process and I've written 8.5 chapters, then probably I have a little more idea of what's coming in chapter 10, just a little bit later. Basically, I'm saying once I get up to it, once I get there in my writing, things start to flesh themselves out more, and I can plan ahead a little bit. Um, Based on the rough points I know need to happen. But then once I start writing, I'm like, oh yeah, this is what needs to happen next. And so I guess there is an element of like I talked about at the beginning of the story taking shape on its own, um, but also for me an element of planning. So that's really quick summary of how I do it. I plan the broad points, the smaller points kind of fill themselves in along the way. Hope that helped you. If it did, great. If not, do what works for you. But take the advice for what it's worth and do what you will with it. If you're interested in this, if you've enjoyed these talks, um, if you enjoy superhero stories and things like that, have a couple things to forecast to you. One, a week from today, Friday the 30th, I'm going to have a discussion with some other fans slash up and coming writers like myself about superhero stories specifically. Like since that's what I'm writing, like why have they captured our imaginations? What what makes them so interesting? What are some of the best ones out there that we or anyone, myself or anyone else who's writing from superhero stories can learn from? I will create a Facebook event for that soon, hopefully the next day or so. I haven't yet, but be on the lookout for that. So it's going to be a week from today, Friday the 30th. Otherwise, if you enjoy this kind of stuff and want to support this story, want to hear more writing related content from me, I ask you again, sign up for the link in the comments here or in the video description. It's a link that has the words Chippermaker in it with then some numbers. It's also on my fan page, Samuel N. Harris. Sign up for that. You'll get notifications of more discussions like this, as well as a free sample of Fractured Heroes you can read and enjoy at your own leisure. So that's all for now. That's all I have time for. Have a great Friday. Thanks for listening.